Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of The Light Movement Show. We are here with Casey Wakefield today. She is a professional artist and she is very well read. She's read lots and lots of artist books, and so she has some great recommendations for you guys today. What are you afraid of? Just do it.
Elli made me cry.
3 top books you think every artist should read.
You know, it's not just about making art, but it's creating your schedule for the day. You know, if you're just in there and doing it even when you don't feel like it, that's professional.
There is no resistance in sitting on the couch, drinking beer and eating Cheetos and watching TV.
No. Yeah.
Well, hello, Casey. It is so good to see you today. You know, I've missed you. So Casey Wakefield is a visiting artist and you live in Arizona.
Yep.
And you took the mastery program. How long ago was that?
It was 2018.
2018. So we've known each other since at least then, maybe a little bit before that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And when I used to live in Arizona, I saw you a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad you were able to come to Georgia and we were able to spend time together. And you just got done filming a fantastic start to finish show. How was that for you, being filmed like that?
It was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I thought I would be nervous having people around, but I think when you just kind of get in that mode thinking, okay, I've got to create something, you just zero in and away you go. So, and I felt prepared and planned and just try to put myself in my own studio at home and not really think about it too much. And so, once things, and it was super easy with the guys. So they stay quiet and don't, not a whole lot going around where you can
Nobody's
just focus.
breathing down your neck. And
Yeah,
that's cool.
So it was good.
So you have been a professional artist now for almost basically since you graduated.
Oh, yeah.
You got into it right away.
Yes. I just kept painting and then I feel like the more I was in my studio and painting and the more I just kept creating and I would post, and I feel like that's when things just would start happening little by little, whether it was like a commission painting from a good friend or a family member or something like that, that they would, ask me for a painting for their home, and then that would happen. And so then that gave me more of a confidence, and then gave me a confidence boost. And then, just getting involved in my local artist community too, and going out to other galleries or joining other different artist groups or clubs is how I started meeting other artists within the community. And so I feel like every step I took, as long as it was something forward to like my end goal, or not my necessarily end goal, but just my goals in general, then things would just kind of keep happening. And so I just would follow those different steps along the way. And so I just keep going and keep painting and just keep seeing what else happens. And, then as I grow as an artist too, then the more things, you kind of increase your goals a little bit and keep, looking for more things.
Your vision
to do.
expands.
So, yes.
Yeah. And then you've also been doing mentoring for Milan Art Institute for quite a while now, at least 2 years, or is it longer?
Yeah, I think it's 2 years now for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's exactly 2 years.
Okay, cool. And so you've read a lot of books. First for yourself, you've always been a reader.
Yeah.
And so so since you've become a professional artist, I imagine your reading repertoire has sort of expanded into a lot of art books. And then through mentoring, I imagine that you've recommended a lot of books to your students as they run into different issues.
Yeah.
And so they're so fortunate that you are well read and that you're committed to growth, personal growth, which I think makes the best mentor.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah.
Well, and you can share then too, thinking, okay, well, or you can easily put yourself into their shoes. I feel like whenever you are aware of personal growth and you read about it, or you experience a similar situation or things to them, that then you have something to share with them, or you can, have empathy or understand where they're coming from. So
yeah, totally. And you're not like in that ivory white tower,
oh yeah, no.
preaching at them like, what are you afraid of? Just do it.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, oh, I know what that's all about. I used to be afraid of that too.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to talk about some of the books that you've read.
Okay.
And I want you to think about maybe 3 top books that you find that you recommend to your students a lot, and that you yourself gained so much out of reading that you think every artist should read, or just, we just want to kind of dive into some books and some of the themes.
Yeah.
So, what would you say is one of the books that you would really recommend
Well, I
for
think,
artists to read?
yeah, I think one of just like a generalized or just general book is I felt like when I read The Artisan Soul by Erwin McManus, that it was something, just talks about basically like we were all created to create. So no matter what, if it is a painting or a drawing or the way you create your day or the way you create your settings or your environment within your home, just or any job that you create or, any invention, anything that we do, we are creating and we can create. It's not just things happen or some people are born with this and amazing creativity or genius. It's more of that, you can create your environment, you can create the things that you do, but we're all meant to be creating. And I found that very comforting when I read that because I thought, yeah, okay, it's not just about making art, but it's creating your schedule for the day. It's creating your weekend. What do you want to do with your time? How do you want to spend your time? You have power over that, so that made me really just generally think about like, okay, I have a little bit of, we're meant to be doing creative things no matter what area it is in our life, but it's a natural inborn type situation, kind of a thing that we can do. So,
Yeah, that sounds good. I haven't actually read that book. So would you say that a big thrust or point to that book is almost giving anyone permission to be creative?
yeah, definitely. It's for me, it was life-giving in that sense of, okay, we all can have this opportunity to be able to think creatively and to be able to expand our mind, to be able to learn, to be able to grow. And it just really resonated with me at that time period. And I read it when I was going through the mastery program. And so it made me feel like it's okay to be spending your time being creative.
Yeah.
Because I think at some point too, growing up, it was almost like, okay, if you're drawing or painting or coloring or something or doing a craft, then that's a hobby. It's not
And it's
necessarily,
frivolous.
yeah, and it's frivolous. And so it wasn't really like a positive thing to be, adding to your day or that would rejuvenate your soul or rejuvenate your life, or it wasn't as something that would be life-giving to you. It was more of, okay, if you have free time, if you have everything else done that you're supposed to be doing, then you can be creative, then you can make a craft. But really for me, it's like, I need to be creative before I can give to other things, really.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Would you say that it also kind of confounds that idea that there's only special people who are creative and not everybody is creative? Some people are meant to just, do the numbers and other people are meant to just do the physical things and other people, but really only artists are creative
Yeah.
and they're born with, special glitter on them or something like that.
Yeah, I definitely, because, and that's something that I kind of thought growing up too. I thought if I can't paint something so realistically or draw something perfectly exactly from what I see or come up with something crazy out of my mind, then I'm not an artist. But I found when I would take art classes during school growing up, I loved it. And for me, it was freeing. And I thought the more time I spent with it and the more time I practiced it, then I could see myself getting better and learning how to apply just different lessons that we were being taught at that time, then it's like, oh, okay, I can do this and I enjoy it. I loved it, and so, but you're pretty much, our culture is more raised and thought of doing something serious as you grow up, and that, art is maybe for those special,
Right.
Creative type people but I also think though is that, we use creativity in everything that we do. Even scientists need to be creative. If they, be creative and curious about their hypothesis that they want to experiment and not necessarily, keep doing the same experiments over and over again and just keep proving it. What
Right.
else is there out there? Think in a creative way on how they do their experiment, not just doing certain ways. And I think the more time and more way we can be able to switch from that right brain to left brain and back and forth, that, it would make, some jobs probably more fun to be able to have that room and space for individual people to be more creative about how they do their things and jobs.
Yeah. That's really cool. Okay, I have another. This is kind of a weird question.
Oh no.
Okay.
Just kidding.
Okay. What would you say? And this might even not have anything to do with the book, but I'm just kind of going off of what we're talking about. So if we believe, and I actually agree with you. So if we believe that really anybody can do art because we're designed and created to be creative.
Yeah.
Creativity is just in our DNA as human beings. So therefore, if anybody wants to and has the desire, can learn and learn some skills with paint, with drawing, with sculpture, whatever, just like music, and then be able to create art. So based on that premise that we believe that, what would you say about the idea of that some artists might worry or be concerned that everybody's going to be an artist now? And then what is the value of my art? Because now there's so much art out there, and so nobody's going to care about my art, and now artists aren't special anymore. So it's like that safer feeling of, I'd rather be thought of as the special one that was born with glitter on me than, well, anybody can. So what do you think about those people that think that?
Well, I think the more it just allows you to be around more creative people. And then when you surround yourself with more creativity and other people who are creating, then that can feed into your creativity. And then you can come up with more ideas and, and see what they're doing, and then maybe add a little bit of something of what they're doing to your art, or, it just helps you see things in different ways. And I think we're all different. So if we're all expressing ourselves, then we can all, I think there could be a better understanding of people if everyone did express themselves, and so that you could understand each other a little bit more, or take that time to see them. And so I think if more people, I wouldn't be afraid of other or more artists in the world, because then that just means that it values what you're doing even more.
Right. Well, it's like, I mean, I've been, back in the days when we had checkbooks,
Gosh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would balance my checkbook, but I have no interest in becoming an accountant.
Right.
And so, and I guess that's true for everything. Like I've played sports, but I'm not, an NFL player. Right.
Yeah.
So I think that, but when it comes to art, it seems like people, go, oh, that's not for me. I'm not going to touch paint. So I think people can express themselves through drawing and painting.
Definitely.
But not necessarily go into a professional arena with it.
Right.
So artists who might think that, they shouldn't think that, right? Because as you said, it'll just make everything more creative, and people value it even more.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I think too that it's more of like who I think has a desire to do what. Like if you do have a desire to look at numbers all day and check the numbers, and that makes you feel good, and you have satisfaction and a desire to be able to make sure there's balance and order, then fine, great, thank you. Because that's what I did my undergraduate degree in business administration. And I thought, I'll love accounting, because I love things to be all in their place, and I love to categorize things, and how easy is it just to write numbers in boxes. But what I found was it was my worst subject. I hated it because it didn't make sense to me. Why would you put one thing in one category when really actually it should be in a different one? Or, I just couldn't grasp how to categorize things, because it didn't intuitively make sense to me. And so, but I did love the classes though, where I loved the business finance class where you got to create your own business. And so I remember thinking, I like creating stuff. And that was my first thought of thinking that that's more of what I like about business, and not necessarily the numbers or managing somebody or anything. I like coming up with the ideas.
Yeah, that's great. So if you're interested in this idea of having permission to be creative and being creative in every aspect of your life, and sort of stepping into your, attribute as a creator and a creative person, other books that come to mind in that sort of genre are The Artist Way. That definitely gives you permission to paint and not feel guilty about it in creating. And then the other one was the book you just recommended to me that I read that I loved, A Whole New Mind by Daniel Pink. That is kind of for anyone, not necessarily an artist, but it's basically how the whole world is shifting into right brain thinking and a more creative realm of thought. So I would say those 3 books in a way are a good package.
Yeah. And then you recommended to me that same day the book Storyworthy.
Yeah.
And so I haven't read all of it yet, but I'm halfway through it. And it talks about being able to, communicate through story and be able to tell your story or write about story. And so, there are they just don't automatically happen, or you don't have to have like some creative wildlife adventure to tell a good story.
You can live a very normal life and there's story there.
Yeah. It's in the everyday happenings. It's just paying attention and being present in those moments to share. So I thought that was really interesting, and it inspired me to write even more or to journal about my day or those little things.
Too. Yeah. Have you been doing the homework?
I not every day, but I feel like, that's why I'm like, I'll get through the book and then I'll like apply all the principles. But I have the notebook at least. And so I have written in it. So that's step one.
Good. That's good.
Just not every single day.
Well, I actually made a spreadsheet.
Did you? Oh my gosh.
I know.
Like he said to make a spreadsheet.
I did that. And I have some of it filled out.
Okay.
Yeah. But I want to, be more in a habit of doing it because
that'll help you write your next book.
That's right. Well, and blogs and all kinds of things.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Okay, let's go on to your second book that you really think every artist should read.
I really liked the other one that really made sense, or more of an aha kind of a thing, was The War of Art by Steven Pressfield.
Yeah.
And
basically anything Steven Pressfield writes is fantastic.
I know.
But The War of Art is I have read that one.
Okay. Yeah. For me, it was the part about resistance that, if you're, basically if you're avoiding what you need to be doing or creating, then, that is resistance. If you don't just put in the time and put in the work and show up and just do the work, then, that's how you beat it. Whether you feel like inspired that day or feel creative that day, there's so many days too where like maybe, my schedule that day it's busy and there's a lot of things going on, and I only have a couple of hours to be in the studio for that day. And I'm busy and I don't feel like I'm at my most creative moment, I still go into the studio because I read that book and I was like, oh, that's what that is, So it made me think, it made me realize that. And so I thought, okay, well, even if I don't feel like it, I'm going to show up. I'm going to go in my studio and do what is the next layer. If it's easier for me just to put some collage on a canvas or measure off some paper pieces and tape up some paper pieces so that when I'm ready to paint on something else, at least I'm doing something and I'm moving forward within my art. And or just putting down some inks on something, it's just doing a little something. Yeah, so that you never just not get out of that flow of creating and working and moving your own art forward. So, some days it might be organizing the studio. That's resistance, but but at the same time, if you're just in there and doing it, even when you don't feel like it, that's professional. So showing up is professional. And if you want to be a professional artist, then just show up. That's right. All it is.
That's right. So you found that book really brought transformation to your habits, your just professional attitude of being an artist.
Definitely. It put words to what I was either experiencing and also it's helped me too with students. I can tell when someone's facing resistance, And so
they drop off. You don't hear from them for a long time.
Yeah. I don't see any lessons or, hey, what do you think about this? That kind of stuff, you know? And because if you're not just doing the work, then it's probably something, I know life happens and things do get in the way and some things can be overwhelming and consume your time. But at the same time, if you don't take the initiative to like block that time out for your week, and I always say too, like Sundays are the day or a Saturday, look at your week ahead. What do you got going on that week? If you're volunteering at your kid's school that morning, okay, well then that afternoon you have time to paint before you go back and pick them up. Or, there's things that you cut out instead of, maybe this week you're not going to meet a friend for lunch and go do it the next week or something like that, so that you can have those 4 or 5 full hours of just being in your studio or painting space and just go for it and get in that rhythm and flow for yourself. Because if that's what you ultimately want, then you'll make your schedule for it and do it. So
Yeah. And, there is no resistance in sitting on the couch, drinking beer and eating
oh
Cheetos and
gosh,
watching TV.
no, yeah, no, that's
Like,
easy.
that's so easy.
Yeah.
But to eat healthy, to
Yeah.
exercise, to, advance your spiritual life, to do your, walk in your destiny, to create
Yeah.
anything that's difficult to do where there is resistance, it's always the good stuff.
Oh yeah.
It's always what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And, then that's the thing is like what, it's just like I tell my kids, or when they're younger too, is like what you see, what you're watching, what you're hearing, what it's in your Instagram or TikTok feed, all that stuff is going in you. So, or even the food you eat, that's what you're putting in your body. And so that's what you're going to get out of you. So if you want to perform or you want to excel or you want to feel well, you've got to put good food in you. You've got to energize. You've got to do some kind of movement or exercise. You don't have to be like a crazy workout 2-3 hours a day
Right.
kind of a person. But if you get up and just get your body moving, clear your mind, there's several things that I do in the mornings before I even go into the studio so that I can kind of prep myself to just be like, okay, I'm ready to go. My mind's cleared. I feel good. I have good energy in me because I've ate well. I've exercised. Here we go.
Yeah.
So I think that's super important with just like prepping your time before you go in the studio.
Yeah, totally. I know for me, something that really helped me in that book,
Yeah.
but I'm a really like competitive person, and if people use certain words, it spurs me. It ignites something in me, and so even just the title, War of Art,
Yeah.
and this whole idea of personifying resistance as because in the mastery program, I used to call it the gargoyle, the gargoyle at the gate or something. And then when I read that, I was like, it's the gargoyle. That's what he's talking about.
Yeah.
So just personifying resistance in terms of, war and not letting it win and not letting it get a foothold and, conquering and, those kinds of ideas made me see the purpose in winning and beating out resistance. And I didn't want to create a habit or a lifestyle of allowing resistance to win.
Yeah.
Because that meant I was losing the war.
Yeah.
And we all want to win the war when it comes to our destiny. And
Oh, for sure.
so you and I are very opposite. And I don't know. I wonder when I read that, like, because maybe Stephen Pressfield and I have a similar vibe or personality.
Yeah.
I'm more like Fred, your husband.
Yeah.
So how did that make you feel? His whole sort of jargon or like the language that he used and the metaphors and it might be familiar because your husband talks that way. How did you respond to that? It's interesting to me because we're so different.
For me, it puts words or language to it or identifies it, for me, because if not, I can just go with the flow and move along. And, as long as everything's good around me, I'm good, but then whenever, if there's like strong words or definite things or, identifying something and putting it out there, then I'm like, oh, okay. It just kind of snaps me out of it and makes me realize that's what that is. Okay. So now that I know what that is, now I know what to do. Kind of a thing. So
That's cool.
It puts words to things because I feel like that's why I probably paint abstract paintings is because imagery, words don't come easily to me. It's more of a feel and a presence kind of a thing, So it's the book with identifying exactly what that feeling is for me is what made me realize. And so now that I know that, then I know how to snap myself out of it, kind of a thing. If I'm not creating my schedule as I need to throughout the week, or if I'm not just going out there, or I'm not sticking to my schedule, even though it's created, in that day, if I'm an hour later out to the studio, then I know what's going on, So it's like snap out of it, let's go.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, so you guys watching, if you have experienced any kind of resistance in your art journey, and there's sort of this gargoyle, keeping you from going into your studio, write in the comments, what that is, where do you find that resistance, and maybe some of the things that you've done about it. We'd love to hear your thoughts about that, and your tricks, your ways for overcoming resistance. And if you've read The War of Art, we'd love to hear how it's helped you in your art journey. So write that in the comments. That would be really cool to see. I did read War of Art, so that also really helped me, and it helped me, like you, with students, being able to identify it, and it really helped me when for working out. That really, because I had I kind of got through the resistance in painting years ago, but when it came to working out, I had it really, really bad. So I would put my sports bra out. I would have like my outfit, my socks, my shoes, everything lined up, my water bottle, it's right there. So in the morning I would do it, and then it was war, Okay. Have you ever read Atomic Habits?
Yes. I skimmed through it.
Okay.
But yeah, for the most part.
I think that's another great book in this sort of genre of beating resistance. And another one, have you read, forget his first name, but it's Holiday is his last name, and Discipline is Destiny.
I think so. I've seen that one around. Maybe Fred has that. I don't know.
Yeah, that's another one that's really very similar to War of Art, except those two books are more for everybody, whereas War of Art really is for the artist.
Yeah. I think too, wasn't like Atomic Habits, I get his newsletter, so I at least get maybe that's how I know. Like I get the clips of everything from the book, but more of just like your environment and your surroundings, setting that up for your success. And like you said, laying out your whole outfit that you're going to work out in, your water bottle, you're good to go.
Yeah. So if you're eating, peanut M&Ms every night.
Who would do that?
Don't have them sitting on the counter. I'm hoping they got, taken
on their road trip.
But anyway, exactly. So Atomic Habits, I think, really like gives you practical how-tos on beating resistance. Whereas the War of Art just like you said, really identifies it and helps you to have the will and the desire to overcome it.
Oh yeah. Because it's easy to not do something that you want to do versus, it's easy to not fight that battle, to go ahead and do what you should be doing, or what would make your end goal better, or what for me, it's all about like, I don't want to regret something. So if I don't want to regret that I didn't put the time in or the work in, and then all of a sudden this opportunity happens, and that was something that kept me going too. Like after I finished the program, I thought, I'm going to paint because I want to be ready for when something does happen. When a gallery or a show comes up or somebody wants to do something,
and
I should have at least have like 20 paintings for them to choose from.
And that's exactly what happened for you.
Because they're not going to like all of them. They're only going to like maybe a handful, hopefully at least, and if you have that opportunity, you want to be able to have enough paintings for it to be able to show that you're proud of too. And not every painting are we always that excited and proud of. So it takes some failures and some ones that are to like get the good ones too.
Yeah.
So
good point.
Yeah.
That's excellent.
Yeah. It makes you ready and you're prepared for that opportunity. So I think doing those little things throughout the day is, if you're trusted with the little things, then the bigger things can happen, and you'll be ready. So I think if you keep that mindset and that your goal at that time and that vision that you have and that you want and that you've been shooting for and that you've worked hard for, then you've got to be able to do the little things daily, showing up in your studio, painting when you feel like it and don't feel like it, and for me, it's probably being a little more active on social media. I need to do that. But, that's probably, there's resistance in that one.
That's
for me.
the thing about resistance is you master it one place and then it just wiggles around and finds another one.
For sure.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, it's always healthy to take a sort of a personal, what do you call it? A survey.
Yeah.
Where do I have resistance? Because that's how you know what your next move is almost. You know?
And I think even daily, if you just reflect a little bit, maybe write what you could have done better, not done better, not to be so like consumed about like
or
yourself
beat
and
yourself
what you're doing.
up. Yeah.
But just be like, oh yeah, okay, well, tomorrow's a new day. I can do that.
Totally.
Or a monthly review of yourself, a quarterly review, a yearly review of what you did, didn't do.
Being committed to better.
Yeah. That's it. Nothing to make yourself so super disciplined where you don't have any fun or have your peanut M&Ms every once in a while, Like
Right.
you gotta loosen up a little bit, but trying at least to do better and to be more productive and disciplined is good. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Okay. One more book.
Okay.
What other book would you say was really impactful and you think artists should read?
I think even before I started the program, and I read it a couple years before the program, was Daring Greatly by Brene Brown. And just the idea of being vulnerable and allowing yourself to put yourself out there and just do it, do whatever it could be, and that you have been wanting to do, maybe something that's been on your heart or on your mind that you've always ever wanted to do, and you just never do it because you're worried about what everyone else is going to say, or you're worried about whether you'll fail or succeed at it or not, or so what if you do succeed, then fantastic. That's great. You'll, have trust in yourself that you'll be able to handle it at that moment and be able to grow and continue after that. And then if you fail, okay, well, now you know what not to do. So don't do that. Then do something else and do something different, So that was super, super helpful to me just in general of, you can get so used to just doing your daily life and doing what you need to do and not maybe necessarily what your heart really desires. And that, and I knew that I'd always wanted to create things or I would see things that I felt like people would enjoy or want to be a part of or what needed to be in our culture or in our environment. And those are the things that I always just kind of sat back and watched instead of putting myself in it, or just like that quote from Theodore Roosevelt that she opens up in her
Oh, I
book,
know.
being the man in the arena. Like you can't,
I love that poem.
yeah, like you can't criticize other people if you're not doing it. So if you're not doing it, then there's no need for you to criticize someone who is speaking out about something or creating something that they feel passionate about. So to me, I thought, well, all right, enough's enough. Like, let's get to it and let's start doing things. Not to be like, I want attention or anything. It was more of like, I have this inner feeling and desire to do this or do that. So I probably should be doing it because it might be needed somewhere, or that would be my calling or purpose or destiny. So, and not everything has to be the ultimate thing, the one thing that you do in your whole life. There could be a lot of little different things along the way. It doesn't have to be this one thing. So,
Right.
things change, evolve as you grow and change and evolve too.
So would you say it's a book that really tackles that whole idea of kind of between pride and false humility of like shrinking back, living small, who am I?
Yeah,
That,
definitely.
and kind of gives again permission to step into greatness.
Yeah. That, and to do it in your way, or your true authentic self in that sense, and not necessarily how you think it should be done. Because even if you do something, or even like a painting, like if you paint something how you think other people would like, or how you think that would be well receptive or people would like it more than versus what you would really want to paint, then it's still not going to come off. It's still not going to give a connection to somebody because it's very general. It's not very authentic to you, or has that unique authenticity to it because it's general. It's
Yeah. I remember, would you say though that there's like layers to it? Meaning like, okay, what I'm getting at is you said that you read that book before the mastery program. And then I remember a moment in the mastery program, we were all kind of sitting in a circle and I don't remember exactly what we were talking about, but I feel like I said something and we were talking about you and all the attention was on you.
oh, hate it.
And I think we touched on this concept, this idea of what probably drove you to that book to begin with, and sort of being willing to be vulnerable and your true authentic self. And anyway, I just remember that day. And so I know from my life, my struggles, there's layers to them. It's like you chip away at that one layer and you're like, whew, okay, I'm done. I overcame it. Yeah. And then you move along in life and then there it is again.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, you're crying in front of a room full of people. And,
and Elli made me cry.
Yeah, I know.
No, it's all good.
So do you feel like you'll face that sort of, I don't know, what would you call it? That personal struggle of I even remember at the mentors retreat, you kind of hit against it again. I think it was not last
Our
year,
first one,
but the
yeah.
first one. I don't know. Do you feel like you still are struggling with some of the themes that are in that book, or do you feel like it's all pretty well behind you?
I'm sure there's probably always something there, not everything is, I feel like, completely past. I think, or at least for me, like I built up this protection to or this, layers of protection to protect myself and you just kind of move along and go just to keep the peace and keep things, in harmony around you and things like that. And so, when things do happen that kind of rock you a little bit, it's one of those things where you kind of have to, I don't know. I have layers of protecting myself, of just not rocking the boat or not really, or wanting to be seen, And so, because maybe if I am seen, then will people like me? Will they like what I have to give, what I have to offer? Like, is
Right.
what I say even valuable? Or are you going to mock me for what I'm saying? So it's things like that. And so I felt like, as I kind of tested the waters a little bit, I was like, oh, some other person did relate to that. Or when I do see other people being vulnerable and sharing their things, like how it helps other people, and not going into like people, like I don't think people should go into crazy details about some story or whatever, but I think in the general basic of a human person, of what they go through, the basic feelings or experiences, other people can relate to that. And the more you do that,
And it
then,
connects us.
yeah, it connects us, and then people don't feel alone. They have somebody else has been through it. Look what they did; they got through it, and so then I can too. And that's what I like. That's why I like reading biographies too, and reading about other people, is because you see that the world doesn't end at whatever happened; that they can still keep moving forward, or they find a way out and they persevere. And look at them now.
Yeah,
So
that's cool. Yeah, and look at you now.
oh gosh.
Well, seriously, like, I mean, you're on a podcast. You just told everybody something vulnerable about how the layers of protection and
Yeah.
all of that. And, maybe when I first met you, I wouldn't even imagine that you would be willing to even go on a podcast,
Yeah.
and because you would have had that voice. Who would want to hear what I have to say?
Yeah, definitely.
And you've overcome that. And then the other thing I was thinking about is your art. And so much of what you're saying about those layers of protection, because I remember when you were first doing your abstracts, you struggled with covering up the underpainting so much.
Yeah.
And knowing what to show and what to hide.
Yep.
And what are you going to edit out versus,
Or
allow
even
to
make
be
a
seen.
mark.
Or even, yeah. And now your whole process is about that whole thing that you just said. Like, you're not letting it all show. That makes people feel uncomfortable if you just, your guts are just constantly exposed everywhere you go. And it
Cringe.
makes for a little bit of an ugly abstract, right? So those pretty layers, we don't all walk around naked. We wear clothes to hide some things.
Yeah. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Because we've had kids.
Yeah. And so it's like finding that balance of, so I just connected that with your art.
Yeah.
And you've probably connected that long before me, but I just now connected it.
That, even the idea of like creating all this chaos on something and then bringing it into harmony and making it something new and something good,
Yeah. You know what I think your art does for people? I think your art, Casey, gives people permission to be their true self and to allow the layers of their history to be seen a bit. And you empower people, to really embrace who they are and be seen, and that it's good to be seen. And so I think that's a really cool thing.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. I always hope too that, it gives people hope and courage. Like if they hang it in their home office or whatever their surroundings is, that it's always a reminder, like a powerful reminder in the sense of good and hope, courage, move forward. I've got today, let's go, kind of a thing, So, without like some cool visual thing, but it has that, I hope it holds on to that kind of a power with it. So, or impact, I guess.
Okay, well, I think that was really helpful. I think a lot of artists, would gain a lot from these 3 books that we sort of talked about and different ideas that all artists really go through. And I highly recommend you guys to watch Casey's start to finish video all about her process, because now being able to kind of put all these things together, it'll be even more rich, I think, for people to see how you make these beautiful abstract paintings and to learn more about you. And so, yeah, check out Casey's art. It's beautiful. And she's everywhere, on Instagram. And what's the name of the gallery that you're in Scottsdale?
Royce Contemporary.
Royce Contemporary. So you can check her out at that gallery and your website and anywhere else.
Facebook, I guess, too.
So we'll leave links for these books also in the description so that people can find them. And yeah, so thank you very much. That was really good, really deep. And thanks for all these great recommendations.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So if you are liking what you are hearing today and you find this super interesting, I highly recommend that you hit the subscribe button and the like button so that you are notified when we put a new episode out, because you don't want to miss one single episode of the Light Movement Show.